What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, and I am reviewing Married at First Sight season 19, and it has moved from Lifetime to Peacock. So let's see how that goes. For 19 seasons, Married at First Sight has been on Lifetime and is now on Peacock. That came out last year or so ago, and one thing about it, we're looking forward to seeing what changes and how the show is different, especially with the condensed schedule. So I have been watching Married at First Sight actively since season 12. That would be the Chris and Paige season, okay, to current. And when that came out, they dropped other seasons of Married at First Sight on Netflix. So I think I watched from about Philadelphia to 12, whatever that was, to 12, and then 12 to where we're at present. So I watched several seasons of this. Typically when we're watching Married at First Sight, we're watching for months and months and months at a time, but honestly it'll be done in 5 weeks. But we're going to take our time with these reviews and things like that. Again, I'm not here to psychoanalyze these contestants. I'm here to say what little opinion I have about them and kind of talk about them a little bit and move on. Okay, so if you haven't already, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And grow with me. I'm still new to the YouTube and reviewing things, and I'm gonna get my rhythm. I'm gonna get my rhyme, but just stick with me. And if you have subscribed, if you have watched even just a little bit, thank you. It is encouraging, right, to get out there in the algorithm of it all. Okay, so we're going to jump right on in. I'm going to be talking about episodes 1 and 2. All right, 1 and 2. One thing about it, the first few episodes are kind of boring because we don't know these people yet, and we're getting to know them. So we're going to get to know them together. And I wrote some notes down because, the weddings are what they are in this new format. We're going to get into it. So they start off talking about they're in, what city are they in? Okay. So we're going to jump right on into the video. We are in Austin, Texas. All right, Austin, Texas. I forgot him and I had to Google a minute because I was like, what city is it in? Austin, Texas is where we're at this year. And, it's the 19th season and they give us the stats, 11 couples, 13 babies out of 19 seasons. Those are the stats. Okay, so we welcome back Pastor Cal, Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pia. Okay, season 18, I think, season 18, I believe Dr. Pia had a rough season. She's our new expert on the show. She was a little rough around the edges, but it's needed. Some were feeling Dr. Pia, some were not. Dr. Pepper is an OG. I believe she's been there since season 1, I want to say. And then Pastor Cal. I like Pastor Cal. I don't think he's been there since the first season, maybe season 2 or 3 from what I understand. But I think, Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper ain't going anywhere. And Dr. Pia is a nice, shake up to the panel, to the expert panel. So welcome back. Welcome back. So we're going to jump right in. I like the formatting, how they're doing kind of like the matchmaking special and interviews and all of that kind of in one as they're introducing the couples in this first episode. Because before that would have been a whole episode of matchmaking, interview special, like it'd have been 2 hours for each, but they're doing it all condensed into one as we're meeting these couples. So they have sit downs and talk about, them matching together. And we meet Jalen, who's 27, and Josh, who is 31. Josh is an entrepreneur. He has a roofing company or something like that. And then I believe that Jalen is into fitness and things like that. A fitness instructor, I cannot remember, but those are the two that we meet first. Josh has a story of, he was raised by his grandparents. His mom was in jail. He didn't grow up with a lot, being raised with his grandparents. So he said he was poor, and he's really worked hard to pull himself up. And, from making, $49,000 a year to his company and earning $500,000. So he's done well for himself. He seems like a nice, humble guy. He seems very respectable despite, difficulties growing up. Although he didn't have his mom or his dad, thank God for grandmothers that, nurture him. And he seems like, so far at first glance, he seems cool. And then, of course, we have Jalen. She comes from divorced parents. Her dad plays sports. It was said that her parents had a loveless marriage, and things like that. So we get to know these two and, why the experts match them. And, to me, at first glance, they look like they go together, which is good. And hopefully Married at First Sight on this network can get it right. And then we kind of really just jump into the wedding. To be honest, we kind of just jump right into the wedding part of it all, and where, after they've done their interviews and they give us a little glimpse into that, asking them questions about different things. We jump right to the weddings, and we're in the bridal suite, and Jalen's getting her makeup done. And, whoever is doing the makeup this year for the wedding, I got to give it to them. They were really laying that makeup down. Usually I don't like how it looks. Well, that's not true. I do like the makeup, but the way that they were hooking their makeup up, I thought it was quite nice. Okay. And then we see, the groom, he's in his suite talking with his boys and things like that. The typical layout of it all of, the nervous banter, you're about to do this, all of those things, right? Nothing to write home about as far as, what's going on, because what we really want to see is how you're going to react down to the altar. Okay. So at the altar, he walks down. The people get to see him first, and he's nervous, and, they're nervous talking with the groom. He's nervous. They're asking him questions, and, it's kind of nerving. Like, I see some of my people, but then there are people, from her side, and they get the talking, and, just until, they call action for the bride to walk down. And so, she comes down the aisle, and Jalen looks very pretty. Her smile is pretty. She's excited. They meet at the altar, and they introduce themselves to each other. You know how it go. Hi, my name's Jalen. Hey, my name's Josh. Nice to meet you. Now we're fitting to get married. But as it stands, it seems like they liked each other. Point blank in the period. They had that initial attraction. I think they come off both as seriously wanting to get married and be married and go on this experiment. They're both equally excited, at this point and at this stage, because it is something nervous. You're marrying a complete stranger, but they're ready to do it. They're ready to go on this journey. And I think they genuinely, in my opinion, like each other. I think they vibe well, right? So that is a good thing. And then they get, after they get married, they do, the post, sit down and, talk about something and nothing at all, because they don't know each other. They don't know where to start, and, they start giving their background, and Josh talks about, issues with their families and, family issues. And they kind of dump that off at first, but while also talking about, positive things that are going on in their life and who they are. Nothing, nothing abnormal, to be honest. They were a straight couple. They were just a straight, this could work type of couple in the first 10 minutes of the show. So far, so good. So we've met Jalen and Josh. We're just meeting the cast. These episodes are kind of boring because we're trying to get to know them and to start to build our story arc. Then we meet Brittany and Will, and again, they do this format where the experts are around the table and they have their screens up and saying this is why we match these two people. So we meet Brittany, who's 29, Will, who's 30. Brittany is in HR. She's, she seems mature. She's ambitious. And I wrote in my notes, parents, loveless. So I think loveless marriage, I want to say. If what I remember or don't remember, but she seems a little rigid. She's an intelligent girl, career driven. So I don't know, the way that she came off seemed a little rigid, and she's kind of a perfectionist, maybe a little bit hard on herself to do well, which there's nothing wrong with that. So that's just something I noticed in my opinion about her. But I think she's pretty. And I was like, oh, is she a little thick too? Yes. We're not getting that skinny girl, like just a normal looking girl, right? And yes, they're a black couple of the show, okay? Brittany and Will. But, as opposed to Love is Blind, they got all of these Insta baddies or I think I'm a baddies. And these are just regular people. Even Jalen and Josh, going back up to them, just regular people that you would see in your own town, right? No fillers or nothing like that. Just regular people, okay? And then Will, again, he's 30 years old. And he wants somebody who challenges his mind, okay? And in these interviews, especially when it came to Will and Brittany, they talk about sex and how their expectations about sex are. That was interesting, but hey, you gotta talk about those things when you're trying to match make, people for marriage. What sex and their relationship with sex. How is that going to work in a marriage? Because in marriage, you have sex, right? It's what you do, what you're supposed to do, all of that. So making sure you're sexually compatible. So I did like the experts, doing that. I don't remember seeing them do that too much with Jalen and Josh, but we did see it with Will and Brittany, who we meet. Both Brittany and Will they both want someone who's intellectual, someone who's smart, someone who likes to read and talk about things of substance. They both have a level of, I don't want to call it rigidity, but they just have this intelligence conversation marker, which is good. But in these situations, they don't know each other and probably have some stubborn nature inside of them. Could be a bad thing, especially when you get too high and mighty in the intelligence factor. I'm not saying be dumb, but there's a fine line of I'm really smart or you could come out as arrogant. Fine line in my opinion. And, Will does come off of as that. I think he's cutie. You're right. I feel like I've met his personality before at the same time. So, I think he's going to be nice. He's going to have great things to say, but and he's going to challenge someone, but he also gives me the type that, will talk to you calmly while making you feel stupid on purpose to make his point come across at the same time. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. I think he's going to be a little slimy, nice and slimy, or he's just going to be great at, trying to meet his partner's needs, but we'll see. That's what he gives off to me. Brittany shares that she's not had relationships past 3 months. That doesn't concern me so much. If you're just dating casually and she hasn't found the right one and she's kind of vetted them after so long, why go on with long-term relationships when you feel like the person that you're dating to see if you want to enter a relationship is not going to work? Or if you enter the relationship and it's only 3 months of time that you put into it, move on if they're not the one. So I don't have a problem with that. I have that same story, in my personal life, and my husband is the longest relationship that I've ever had. And we're 6 years married, almost 10 years together. So it is what it is, right? I'm not going to say that's, a bad thing. We find that Brittany's sister passed away in 2020 of COVID, so sorry to her family. I certainly understand that. If I had a parent pass away in 2020 of COVID as well, and that was such a hard thing back then. But you keep going, you keep pushing, and we're living in a crazy time. So we get down to their wedding, and the people think he's cute because he is cute. He's a nice looking dude. So, one thing I did notice is that when they did the vows, right? They didn't do those typical married at first vows. Choose you today, tomorrow, and I vow to the whole world that you are my wife. If you watch Married at First Sight, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And they didn't do those typical vows. So I did notice that change from the Lifetime version now to the Peacock version. And I also think at the altar, they liked each other. They were happy with what was presented to each one of them. And I really think they complement each other. So I'm interested to see their story. Each of these couples so far, have their own issues, right? But as is presented thus far, right? They seem compatible and happy. It's not like Love is Blind where they making these connections and it's like, married at first sight. They're so far so good. Two couples in, they seem to like each other. After they get married, they kind of have, of course, the married at first sight banter about who did I marry, tell me a little bit about yourself types of things. She shows that she has the claws. She has very long fingernails. I like it. I got nails, but they're not as long as hers. And she likes pink. My type of girl. Okay, I like pink too, girl. So, although you see green here, it's one of my new favorite colors. So, yeah, she did that, right? So I like the pink. So that's just my preference, right? But anyway, and then they do the reception of it all. They're still getting to know each other and, they're talking to the friends. They don't really spend a lot of time on the talking to the friends in Will and Brittany's, reception portion. What I did notice, I don't know what they talked about as far as religion in the chats with Pastor Cal and Dr. Peppers and them. But it seemed to me that Brittany's dad, who, he gave away his baby girl, looks like they have a great relationship, father and daughter. And I love that for them. Our black couple of the season, I love that the father is there for his daughter to walk her down the aisle and things like that. So he has some genuine concerns and questions as it relates to his daughter. So he sits down with the mom and the dad. But the dad is kind of like, what's your take on religion? And he's talking all this philosophical things and stuff like that. And the dad's looking like, okay. And, it gave to me, he just want to know, is you saved? Are you sanctified? Do you go to, who's your pastor? And he's talking about all these greater religions. And, I think he said he grew up Catholic or something like that. So I'm not sure if maybe either one of them did not care, put too much care in the religion aspect, but I just wrote in my notes, parents want to know if you're saved. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I thought that was cute because that would be what I would be asking, like, what's your walk looking like? Okay? What's your walk looking like? And you talk about Confucius and them. No. But anyway, so once the reception is over, Will and Brittany have concerns like what's going to happen at the room? What's our sleep routine? Are we sharing a bed? Yes, they're married, but they are strangers and they just met a few hours ago. Now you got to sleep in the same bed, take your clothes off, take your shoes off, take your hair off, take your lashes off. He got to get into his boxers. Is it going to be like a Olajuwon situation where what is that on your boxers situation? Y'all remember that? So, they're just trying to take it moment by moment, and which is fair. Back with Jalen and Josh, we find that they're trying to do all of their post nuptials reception interviews, and we come and we meet Jalen's family, and we find out that Jalen is a twin, right? She has a twin brother. We meet another brother and her mom. And, they're asking all the questions and things about, him to see, how happy she, to make sure that she's happy with this decision and making sure that he could potentially be a good fit for the daughter and whatever you're trying to assess in the moment when your child marries a stranger and you're at the wedding and asking these questions. All of that nervous banter is happening. And then Jalen asked her brothers, hey, would you excuse me a minute so Josh and I can talk with mom? And plot twist, spoiler alert, it is revealed that the very next day, Jalen's mother, who we learn her name is Belinda, will be getting married the next day because she too is getting married at first sight. And that was the end of episode 1. All right, episode 2, we meet more couples. So I'm just going to jump right into it. We meet Megan. She's 38. She's in finance. She's a realtor. She tells us she's a workaholic. Our workaholics. Okay. And she is going to be matched with Derek, who's 38. He's lived a lot of places. He kind of lives that nomad lifestyle. He says he's ambitious. He's the COO of a health and wellness brand. And yeah, that's who we meet. The roundtable discussion with the experts explaining why they matched them up, which is wonderful. I like the format, the interviewing, and how we're getting that all in one and not separate 2-hour episodes. Megan reveals that she froze her eggs. She's an introvert. She has a life coach, and her husband is the opposite. He's an extrovert. That's going to be a struggle. I think that's going to be a bit of a struggle. Introvert and extrovert together, it can work. My soul's a witness. It can be a struggle at times. I'm the extrovert, okay? So, and they're a stranger. I've gotten time to know my man. This is a stranger, okay? I wrote, I hope she doesn't have a dry personality while he's adventurous. That's what I wrote, and we're going to see about that. You know, she seems very into herself, and not in a selfish way, but in an introverted way, which can then, yes, be selfish. So I guess it goes without saying in a way. She's self-sufficient, and I put an exclamation point because on these dating shows, when we get these self-sufficient women who want to build an empire and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, it typically doesn't work out the best with the male unless he's a strong man to deal with that. I'm not saying these men can't, but sometimes the sisters do a little bit too much. So the ladies do a little bit too much. So I have an exclamation point out on that, and we shall see. In the bridal suite, because we're jumping right into the weddings, we see, you know, Megan's mom. I thought she was nice looking. She looked younger than them, right? And she said she'd been married for 40 something odd years. Mother looks good. That's all I'm gonna say to that. Mother looks good. Derek's parents, they give big Texas energy. You know, did you see the dad's whiskers? I said it's giving big Texas energy. But I don't think they're from Texas. I gotta look at my notes here. And then at the wedding, it's given awkward. I underline awkward, all caps, exclamation mark. But, you know, that's okay too, right? They don't know each other. As opposed to the first 2 weddings we were introduced to, they seemed to be excited. They were a little bit awkward in their energy. And they give me meh at this point. Okay. Again, normal, regular looking people. You know, they don't look like Insta influencers, okay? We find out he does like her, right? He gave her a 10 out of 10. He said he moved to Texas in that September, okay? When they asked, you know, how long have they been living in Texas? He says he's a nomad, and she said she's been living in Austin since 2019. So, you know, they're kind of newer to Texas and things like that. I wonder if Derek, if he's ever lived in Texas before. I don't know. The parents give big Texas energy. They did. So that's what we know so far. Next couple up, we meet Rhonda, who's the oldest contestant this year on Married at First Sight at 63. This is one of those major changes that Married at First Sight made when it came to rebranding with Peacock. Okay, now we got some older folk because we just met in the first episode with Belinda being Jalen's mother. We're going to talk about her in a little bit. Of our older cast members. This is what I'm interested in seeing how these things work out with the older people. We know what us, the younger folks usually give, the ones that are in my age bracket, because we got some 38s that's close to my age bracket. We kind of know what they give, especially if you're, you know, in your late 30s and now you're getting married, you're established, you have, you know, some things going on, you're set in your ways, and that sometimes at the same time can be a struggle to kind of make adjustments for somebody else when you've been not having to do that for over 30 plus years, going into almost 40 years of your life, right? In the midpoint of life. So we'll see how that all works out. But we have Rhonda, 63 years old. Mother looks good. Mother looks good. I'll give her that. She's been married twice. Okay. 4 kids. First husband I put was a hobo, and she said he didn't want to work. He was a homosexual. I mean, she was very young. She said she was like 18 and got, they were, I guess they went to high school together. Can't remember. But she got pregnant right away, really young. And she had to work. And he didn't want to work. So you got to go. Don't blame her. Okay. And then in her second marriage, it only lasted 18 months. So she's been unlucky in love. So she's been a single mom of 4 kids, and then she is being matched with Pat. He's 59 years old, adventurous, and he had been married for 30 years. That's an interesting twist to the whole concept of having these AARP members of Married at First Sight to have marriage experience, right? Going into a new marriage with a stranger. And I'm also wondering how the experts are going to navigate these folks. Pastor Cal's been married more than once. Dr. Pepper, we learned seasons back that her and her husband don't even be living together a lot of the times. And Dr. Pia, she's more of traditionally married, I believe, and has, recently had a baby. So I'm wondering and looking forward to how they're going to be guiding people who have already had marital experiences, as opposed to seasons past that these folks have never been married before. So, I'm really interested in that. And then the fact that these older marriages have children, right? So now, you have automatic stepkids, right? And how this is all mixing is going to be interesting. So Pat married 30 years. He has 2 sons, and he says, and I wrote in my notes, he was not sexually satisfied and wasn't willing. And I asked, willing to do what? I didn't understand what that meant, but we're going to see what Pat's about as it goes on. We see Rhonda with the tarot cards. Ooh, loose hair in the name. I was like, girl, no. She's a quirky soul. She's quirky, okay? Her sons say be open-minded. This is not Burger King. You can't always have it your way. And as being a single person she was married a little bit, but she's 63 and been doing things. And she's in her 3rd quarter of life. So, this is really old and set in your ways type of deal. Pat, on the other hand, is hoping that his stranger spouse is going to be outgoing. Speaking of these non-traditional contestants, Rhonda has a red wedding dress. So she said, listen, I ain't wearing white, child, I ain't no virgin. I've been around the world yeah. So, okay, it's different. But, her choosing a red dress, as we're learning, she has a quirky personality. That's the excited, bubbly side of her personality. It comes off really quirky. So down to the wedding, I wrote, love seeing Pat's mom, okay? Because he's 59 years old. So how old is mother? So I think we find out that his mother is in her 80s, which is, I love that. You married 30 years, you're in your elder years and your mom is still around. And anybody who has that experience, that's a blessing to be up there in age and then your parent is still around. So that's a blessing. So I love seeing that. And Pat, he's going in with, I got experience because I've been married 30 years. Sir, watch it. Watch it. Hopefully you can be retrainable, because this is not your 30-year marriage that you were in and ended because you weren't willing, and we don't know what that is. Okay? Maybe we'll find out. Oh, down to the altar, they seem to be, when they meet, they seem to like each other. She got on her red dress, and he's got red on his lapel, which I thought that was pretty cool. So, okay, coordination, okay. He's new to the area of Austin. So right now, Pat he says temporarily, and I believe that, lives with his mom. And I did write, she's 84 years old, and he moved up to Austin from Arizona. And the reason he temporarily lives with his mother is because, dad passed away 3 years ago, and now mom is 84 and alone. So, kudos to him, he's had his own, he's lived his life. So yeah, he lives with his mom. to make sure she's good, and I can appreciate that. And then after I wrote down she forgot his name. I think that's probably because, she's all over the place with her energy and simply can't remember his name, which is okay. You just met him. You don't know this man. You forgot his name. But they're cute. She's quirky. He seems like a nice guy, but we shall see. So back to Megan and Derek really quickly. She's a little country. She loves country. That's her thing. Okay. And then Derek, he doesn't like country music. So she's like saying how much she loves country, 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 country. And she gives that energy. Her mama gives that. They give big Texas energy. But I want to know if they, even though she moved from LA, did she ever live in Texas before? Was she raised in Texas before? She didn't say that, but they give big Texas energy. So she's in the country really, really bad, but opposites attract. And he's like, nah, I don't like country music. He likes electronic EDM music. So we'll see. So back with Rhonda and Pat, she's given all of this quirky energy. She's excited to get to know him. He seems real chill and real cool about it. And as they're, walking, I can't remember from the aisle or just around the wedding venue, I wrote, Rhonda, where are your shoes? And she's up there skipping and dragging Pat around. To me, I think that he might get tired of that. They're excited for right now. He gonna get tired. We'll see. That's just my opinion straight from the gate because she got so much energy. And for 63, you know what? I ain't even mad at it, right? She could be slowing down and saying, oh, I'm old, but she's got a young energy to her, which I can appreciate. Because if we're going to cast older folks on the show, they got to give a little something. They got to give something entertaining to be on TV, right? I watched that one season of The Golden Bachelor. The old folks be having more issues than the young people. So, and they be playing hard. Okay. Megan's mother lets it be known she doesn't like this whole married at first sight, for her daughter. Her daughter could do more, but to be honest, just straight from the gate, like your daughter seemed kind of dry. So I don't know. Back to the room, we see that, as they're doing the whole undressing thing, Derek got a nice little body there, and she's excited about that. That's the most I kind of seen her excited. He got a nice body. I don't blame her. If you're going to be with a stranger, at least let them look good. Up with Will and Brittany, back to the room. They seem really attracted to each other, so that's really good. And let me tell you, this hotel is ugly. I was looking at this. This hotel is ugly. It was like y'all went down to the cheapest embassy suite that was renamed to another hotel. All of the weddings I've seen so far at this hotel, it looks cheap. They didn't give it a budget. Now, when they was over a lifetime, the budget was a lot more. I don't understand. The hotel, the rooms in this hotel look cheap. They look old. It looks like it probably has a smell to it when you walk in. I did not like it. Come on, Peacock. You gotta carry the torch, but y'all didn't give it a budget. I don't understand that. I know it's the first season on your network, but y'all could at least carry the zhuzh of a budget. Like the hotels and the wedding venues on the Lifetime version of the show was always much nicer. That bugged me. That really did bug me. So we got Jalen and Josh. They're attracted. The old people are kissing a lot. And I'm talking about Rhonda and Pat. And, she has this bright idea that, they are going to end the night at the pool, chit-chatting. And she's like, we should just jump in, clothes on, and all of that, which I thought was pretty cool. And they jumped in the pool, clothes on, and laughed and had a good time. That's a great way to start it off, to break the ice and, have some fun. And they're older and enjoy life. And then they get into the hot tub. So I thought that was really cool and cute. Don't have any problem with that. And I thought it was really nice. And that was the end of episodes 1 and 2. So far, I think that the couples that we've met so far, they seem to like each other. I got my eye on all the couples, but I got my eye on Will because I want to see how that intelligent, intellectual type how that carries over with Brittany and how that will affect her. I mean, they're both got rigidity to them, but it's different. Okay. I don't know if he's going to use his smarts to manipulate her. And I hope her overthinking doesn't tip her over the edge. Derek and Megan. Derek seems cool. Megan seems a little set in her ways. You have to watch these ambitious women who want to build empires or workaholic on these shows, because it generally doesn't work out across the dating show world, in my opinion. I think Jalen and Josh, out of what I've seen so far, like each other the best. So that is it for episodes 1 and 2. Stick around and we'll be back for episodes 3 and 4. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It's your girl, Angela Monique. Peace.